I mean, a lot of people would say that Doctor Who isn't a serious role, and obviously, you know, an honourable man, if not necessarily a serious play, is about a serious subject. I joked at the start of the panel about the three of you being very good looking. Do any of you find that...
Missed that, but thank you.
Yeah, do any of you...
I thought he called me a bastard.
I did. But have any of you found that being physically very appealing has actually held you back from more serious roles?
Not that I've noticed. Marcus.
Does my sister want to answer this one? Not really. No, I think in any when you're acting, you get typecast. I think you play to your strengths. But no, I think that we get opportunities to.
Some of us draw the short straw, some of us are blessed in varying departments or varying different ways. We've all got something going for us, haven't we? And I think when you're young and carefree, life is spontaneous and it's a great joy, and why shouldn't you go out and do whatever it is you want to do? Because you can't do it when you're older, it just doesn't work. I think there's a certain freedom afforded to you when you're young. Mm-hmm. Now I'm miserable. I take life very seriously. I have a multitude of responsibilities. I yearn for yesterday. So I'm quite sad in many ways. I've got to try and not focus on it. But in the past, life was a bit of a blast. Now I just have a passion for steam trains. Life changes, doesn't it?
Speaking of being blessed in various departments,
Where is this going?
Been looking.
it's going exactly where you think it's going.
Okay.
Speaking of being blessed in various departments, Marcus, Dee was kind enough to remind me earlier that you played a nudist in an episode of John.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I did. I've had a few nudity clauses, and you've got to feel relatively confident, I suppose, with what it is you're swinging around down there, or whatever. You know, I wasn't ashamed, and
You were very
it was quite amusing. It was, and the nudity, there was a leg cross there or a teapot there, which probably wasn't a good idea, but it was handled. It was amusing. No one's asking me to get naked now, though, which is a bit of a shame. Times change.
I mean, we've got an auction at the end of this slot.
I've got some lovely, lovely magnolia-coloured Y fronts. They go for a fortune.
Magnolia sounds a bit risky. You must have
Yeah, let's not go there.
Very careful with your diet there, yeah. Yeah, I mean, physical confidence obviously is something that comes naturally to you. Do you find that physical scrutiny is a worrisome thing in this, you know, when you're acting now with social media and cameras everywhere and people examining you from all angles at all times of day and night?
It's usually the NHS now.
Come on, Scotland, yeah.
No, you do. You get a mixture of comments. But I'm always more offended if someone writes that they don't like my acting. If someone says to me, "Oh, I don't like the way you look," or "I've been called ugly" and things like that on Twitter, like, that doesn't really affect me or offend me. But if someone was like, "She was rubbish in that play," or "It wasn't believable," then that does affect me. What about you?
What about you, Dee?
What about me? I personally don't know of one actress of my generation, and I'm 57 now, that hasn't had an eating disorder. There clearly will be some, but I haven't ever met them. I skirted with starving myself for a few years, believe it or not. Yeah, so it does. It is very difficult. No matter who you are or what you are, if you are under scrutiny, you will feel pressurised, and it's how you deal with that.
It is frightening. There are a lot of very thin actors, and I don't think I'll ever be one because I love cake too much. It's really frustrating, but that's never going to be me. So I hope, but I do see a change. I do see a change that it's been more inclusive now, and things are changing slowly but surely. But I completely agree. There are a lot of really sad stories out there with eating disorders, and you're just made to feel that way in auditions to be a certain size and stuff. So that definitely has to change.
Presumably part of being an actor is the ability to possess a certain empathy, to put yourself in other people's shoes, which makes you vulnerable. Do you think that by nature, being an actor makes you more vulnerable to this sort of criticism than the average person maybe, because you have to have those emotions closer to the surface? Does that make sense? That didn't make sense.
Yeah.
don't even
But if you put yourself out there and you're trying to portray someone with human failings, emotions, triumphs, then it's fair game, isn't it, really? You only give your interpretation of a life. And people won't agree with it. Some people will agree with it. But it's for you to find the truth and the meaning. And if you can do that, you can wander away at the end of the day thinking, yeah, I feel okay, I did a good job. Because there are instances where you'll have a day's filming or you'll be doing something, and it's very hard to do a day's filming. For those people to go in and do a day is a hell of a lot tougher than those who've been assigned to a project for weeks and weeks. Then everyone becomes family. But to go in and do a day, and I've done days in the past and thought, I didn't enjoy that. And you want to hide under the nearest bush.
It's like the first day of school, you know,
Yeah.
the first job you ever do, your heart's pumping, you've got to nail it, because it's a lot of money to mess up a recording, like the film. It costs a lot of money. I think it's like £1,000 a take or something. Yeah. So if you're like 6 takes down, that's £6,000 you've lost. It gets a bit stressful.
Every job is like your first day at school, like you said, or every job is like the first time you've ever done it. It doesn't ever really get that nervousness and that sort of, oh my God, I can't do it anymore, or, you know, I'm just rubbish, why am I doing this, I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
Never really, I think, goes away for anybody.
Sorry. I want to give a couple of examples if I can. One of the first films I did out of drama school was a Rambo film, and it was an enormous production, about 350 people in the unit. This was shot in Israel and Thailand. This piece happened to be in Israel, and it's where Stallone had come over. I was playing the second Russian officer in command, and Stallone had infiltrated the camp and he'd set explosives. And we, as the Russians, were out, obviously, to get him before he escaped. And I remember enormous setup, special effects, explosions all over maybe 400-meter circumference, maybe about 10, just big stuff. And I was supposed to run into the center of the shot and say something like, and it was just one take, because then, bang, and I didn't say, I said, and it didn't really work. I just had one shot. It didn't really matter. And then I felt, you don't feel the weight of production, but you know, you've messed up and you hope it's not noticed. And if you're a young actor, you look at yourself and God, that's embarrassing. Another time, there was a film called Legacy, which was a 70mm film that I made, and this is beside the Mississippi. And this again was a one-take shot, because the sun was setting, and they needed this scene between myself and a guy called Joseph Smith, who was the founder of the Mormons, basically. And it was shot in silhouette, and the scene progressed. And I was aware that because the sun was setting, there was a lot of mosquitoes around, and one landed on me. And I felt quite relaxed about that. Normally I'd dither around and try and squish it, but I didn't, because I was aware that the cameras were on and we had to be out of there. And I'd been involved for about six weeks in the production, so I was quite relaxed. And everything was fine that time. I think it depends how you inhabit something, or what sort of time you're given to give of yourself.
But
Makes a
it
difference.
happens any time. I had quite a stressful day. I was on set and it was one of my first ever jobs. Second series, it was called The Hour. Peter Capaldi, he joined. And I had to, it was my first scene back, and it was in front of Peter Capaldi, Romola Garai, Ben Whishaw, and I had one line in amongst everyone's massive monologues. So I thought, I can't mess this up. And actually, Peter Capaldi was the only one who kind of realised that I was really flapping. I was like, I can't do this, I don't want to be an actor anymore, this is it, I've had enough. And he pulled me to the side and he was just like, take a breath. And he said, look around, look at the producers, look at the director, are they looking at you? And I was like, no. And they said they're so bothered about what they're doing, just don't let it get inside you. And that's something that stayed with me. He's a very generous man and he was very thoughtful to pull me out at that point, because you can go into a bit of a spin. But yeah, I don't know where that was going, but I thought I'd just tell you how much I love Peter Capaldi, even though this is a Doctor Who convention.
It's sort of a catastrophizing thing. Where you
Yeah,
get,
you can build it up, and really what we're doing, we're just making a bit of TV. We're not operating on someone in a theatre or anything like that. It's just a bit of TV, but it can get very stressful. So it's just about taking a breath and just trying to relax. But it's hard sometimes.
So would you call Peter Capaldi a mentor now?
A mentor. I think that's something that I've kept with me a long time. And I was at a convention with him recently in Baltimore, and I told him, and he couldn't even remember that he told me, and that it made such a big change to me. So maybe I'm not his only one that he gives advice to. I thought I felt very privileged at that point, but there's other women in his life, apparently.
Well, you're a Doctor Who companion, that's how it works.
That's true, I know. I got very offended when I realised that Colin had other companions. I was like, how dare he? And now there's another woman joining us on our adventures. Miranda. Yeah, this is part of the new thing, there's 3 of us. And earlier I said it was a menage a trois, and I got told that that's not really the right term to use. I don't really know much French, but I thought that meant 3 of us, but apparently it means something a bit more risque. But we're definitely not doing that on set.
that was Dr. Smiley's job, wasn't it? Let's be honest.
Erica's waving.
No, okay, thank you very much. Do either of the other of you did you have an actor mentor who was particularly esteemed, who gave you particularly valuable advice in your early careers?
Several. I think it's about every leading man that I ever worked with. Bill Gaunt was amazing, still is. Lovely, beautiful man. I bumped into him on a bus. I hadn't seen him for 10 years last week. Andy Lawson was very, very kind. Actors are by and large, I think, really quite sort of generous-natured people. And if you have anything to pass on to anybody at all, we all do it. We all pass on information and help and love and generosity. And yeah.
No, I've sort of fallen apart of late a little bit. Yeah, I'm still here in one piece. But a long time ago, I had a lot more confidence. And life was wonderful. It's all ahead of you. There's no baggage. And I was too busy wandering around, I wasn't quite a bastard, but I was a little bit arrogant. But I wasn't aware that I was arrogant. I was just young, and it was great, and full of energy. And I am now, of course, to a lesser degree. But everyone in the business is usually very reassuring, and there are people who will take. It's a wonderful story and a very useful piece of advice. If people see you suffer, actors by and large are very nice people, and they're actually, despite what you may feel, quite humble and pleased to be here. It's a compliment for us to be here. So, thank you for that. And we're all the same, more or less. But youth, yeah, fantastic, priceless,
wasted on the young.
Yeah.
There's a famous quote, isn't it? The only two things worth having are beauty and youth, because everything else you can buy. Can I just point out that when I called you a bastard earlier, I was referring to a character from Riders, and
Yeah.
not to you, even though you do flirt with my wife.
That's all right. I just wondered why you had such an insight into my family history.
He rang Erica up last week and said, "Are you relaxing with a glass of wine?" And she said, "No, I haven't got a glass of wine." And Marcus said, "Oh, shall I come round there and pour one for you?" And I had to pour her off the couch. An Erica-shaped jelly mold. Anyway, time is getting away from us. So are there any questions for any of our fantastic panellists, please, for the audience? Gentleman with the inflatable voice.
So, how do you think Flip will react to 13?
To 13, I think Flip would love her. She's a real ballsy character, and I think she's she's come into her own. I always say that I feel like I've grown up with Flip. Been doing her for 6 years, and I'm getting older with her, and I think she's turned into, I'd like to say a strong woman, and I feel like 13 is going to be a strong woman, I hope. I think she'd love her. Absolutely love her.
Anything else? Gentleman at the back with the turquoise dreams.
One from Artist. Do you have any memories of working with Oliver Reed?
Yeah, I do. Oliver Reed was the most powerful, charismatic actor I've ever worked with. And for the first, this was something called Ghost in Monte Carlo. It was a Barbara Cartland film. And Oliver came in with a reputation. It was a risk hiring Oliver Reed because of his hard drinking. And he was just a man who in a room like this, he would whisper and all eyes and all attention would be on Oliver. He had such dynamism and such power. And he was a gentleman for the first 3 weeks. And then he sort of hit the bottle. And I had to kill him.
Why do I laugh at that? That's so weird.
Which Oliver coming towards you, and he'd done all the 3 Musketeers, the 4 Musketeers. He was an accomplished swordsman, but by that time he was about 16.5 stone, still a very powerful man, but the drink had got to him, so he was a little bit slower. But he never held back. He never held back. I was young, relatively fit. I wasn't Oliver Reed, but I had to hold my own. And most actors do hold back. You'll rehearse and there'll be fight scenes, and it's orchestrated so carefully. But Oliver didn't hold back at all. So it was a very physical confrontation, and he couldn't quite do it all. So a stunt double stepped in for him. But the majority of it he did. I have complete and utter respect for him. He was a complete nightmare. His driver was terrified of him because his driver always used to have to take him to Stringfellows, which is something Dee mentioned earlier on, by the way. And Oliver had no fear. The bouncers would clear away because he had no judgment when he was drunk. He was a law unto himself. He was a force of nature, and for the first 3 weeks, phenomenally impressive man, lovely guy as well. His partner was someone called Josephine, who was training to be a nurse, and she was 17 at the time, and I'm not sure how old Oliver was, but she had to try and hold him back. And I remember just quickly, there were a couple of things Oliver did which bemused the director, a guy called John Huff. It was a gambling scene, and someone had just gambled away their life, basically, and was just about to wander outside and put a gun to his head. So it was a very tense scene, and Oliver got up and kissed the director on the lips, which obviously wasn't the right thing to do, but he was uncontrollable, and from then on he sort of slipped off a bit. And there's a little end of production chat, and he came into this caravan, small caravan that I had. His wife was his girlfriend was trying to drag him out, but Oliver was insistent on, I can't remember what Shakespeare he was speaking, but he stood there, recited prose, and then he lifted a bottle of vodka to his lips, and it didn't come down until half of it was gone. Yeah, he had a phenomenal capacity, but everyone has demons, and as a man, he was magnificent, but difficult to work with. But yeah, incredible man. What a force.
I think we've got time to slip one more question. Anybody? Gentleman with the je ne sais quoi.
I think that's you.
Yes, yes.
Right, okay, what's your question for Dee. Any memories of No Place Like Home?
Got lots of them. Ask me a question about.
Working with William Gaunt, I mean, any sort of memories of the production of it, or was it an excellent cast?
Thank you. It was lovely. He was very much the patriarch, literally. We used to eat as a family en famille in the canteen, and it sounds a bit kind of schmaltzy, but we really did care about each other. As actors often do, you become a kind of instant family, but we kind of we were all cast because we looked a bit like each other, because Robin Nash, who directed and produced all of it, wanted to have a family that looked like they could well be related, and I'm often told that we do. And Martin Clunes was every bit as rude and funny as you think he would be.
And really good looking when he was younger.
Yeah, he's still.
I've got a picture, and he's
on my phone
yeah.
of him, when he was 21. Yeah, so.
I'd date him. I'd date anyone.
But lots of happy memories. And Marcia Warren, who played Vera the next door, I think she was a masterclass in comedy acting. The things that she was so inventive and so generous with her tips, as they all were. It wasn't all. Sometimes we fell out and bickered, but by and large it was lovely. It was very shocking to lose Stephen Watson, who was killed on Honeymoon, who played the eldest brother, Paul. But yeah, no, very, very fond memories. Occasionally, we last met up about 10 years ago. But yeah, thank you.
I think you said earlier it was actually your performance in that the JNT had seen when he came.
That's right, yeah, that's how I got Flower Child. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? I'm not being called off. So I'm being called off.
Yep.
So no more questions, please. The producer is behind the action on stage for a change.
Can I just say one thing quickly?
Yeah.
It's Erica. Someone mentioned cake earlier on, and I think everyone in this room should know what a fantastic cake your mother makes.
I'd just like it to be known that at this point you're applauding a woman who is not in the room.
And Erica, can I pour you a drink?
I love how she's nodding.
On that slightly sour note, I ask you please to join me in thanking the magnificent flirtation machine that is Mr. Marcus Gilworth.